You ever get that feeling, like with all the stuff you see on the news these days, that maybe running into some kind of confrontation is becoming more and more likely?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a little unsettling, right? Like, whether it's the thought of someone trying to rob you or just like some random aggressive encounter,
Yeah, I think it's something that's on a lot of people's minds.
it can be really overwhelming trying to sort through all the information out there about how to handle yourself in those situations.
Absolutely. It's like, where do you even begin?
Right. So for this deep dive, we thought we'd tackle that head on. And we've got a source that really gets into the nitty-gritty.
Oh, this one's a doozy.
It's called, get this, Street Fight for Life, Effective Techniques of Attack and Self-Defense, Use of Improvised Means.
Now that's a title that grabs your attention.
It does, doesn't it? And we went through it with you in mind, specifically.
Yeah, because let's face it, most of us aren't martial arts experts.
Right, exactly. And we're not trying to turn you into one overnight.
No, not at all.
The goal here is to like extract those real world practical things from this source, stuff you can actually use.
Yeah, like how to maybe avoid trouble in the first place.
Yes. And if, God forbid, you can't, what are some things you can do to protect yourself?
You know what's really cool about this source?
Yeah.
It actually talks about using everyday objects for self-defense.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the most fascinating parts. We'll get into that.
That's something that's pretty surprising.
It is. But before we jump in, gotta mention, this source, right at the beginning, it's very clear that all this stuff is for educational purposes.
Exactly.
It's not about going out and picking fights.
No, absolutely not.
In fact, it really stresses that your health and your life are the most important things.
And avoiding a fight is always the best strategy.
Absolutely. Always, always. Okay, so the first thing this source really hammers home is something we all know, but it's worth repeating.
What's that?
The best way to win a fight. Don't be in one.
Truth.
Avoid dangerous situations. That's priority number one.
Easier said than done sometimes, though.
It can be, but it starts with awareness, right? Like paying attention to your surroundings, that gut feeling.
Oh, yeah. Something feels off. Trust your instincts.
Absolutely. And if a place seems sketchy, especially if you're not familiar with it, steer clear.
Right. And think about how you're presenting yourself, too.
Oh, good point. It talks about projecting a sense of confidence.
Not arrogance, though.
No, not at all. It's more like, calm, quiet confidence.
Like you're aware and you're not an easy target.
Exactly. And it even mentions, this is interesting, not flashing expensive stuff around.
Makes sense, sadly. You don't want to draw unnecessary attention.
Right. Okay, now let's talk about the worst case scenario. Someone approaches you and says, money or your life.
Ugh, chills. Just thinking about it.
I know, right? It's terrifying. But the advice in the source is crystal clear.
Give them what they want.
Yep. It's just not worth risking your life for possessions.
Things can be replaced. Your life can't.
Exactly. Now, if you can't avoid an encounter, the source gets into some really interesting de-escalation tactics.
Like what?
It suggests if someone's being hostile, keep your answers short, clear.
Don't engage too much.
Right. And get this, it even suggests answering a question with a question.
Interesting. Why would that work?
The idea is it can make you seem a little detached, maybe even confuse them a bit.
Oh, I see. And it prevents you from showing fear.
Exactly. Now here's one you might not think of right away. A simple cry for help.
Really? Just shouting for help?
Yeah. You never know. Someone might hear you and call the police.
Oh, the police themselves might be nearby.
Exactly. Okay, let's say despite your best efforts, things escalate. You can't talk your way out of it.
Okay, now we're getting into the heart of it.
This source describes a street fight as typically unexpected and fast.
How fast are we talking?
It says often less than 5 minutes.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah. And a key point it makes is, if you can, take the initiative.
Don't wait for them to make the first move.
Right. And it even suggests some psychological tactics to gain an advantage.
Okay, now this is getting interesting.
One suggestion is to, get this, pretend to be absolutely terrified.
Like, take it.
Yeah. Like maybe even drop to your knees, plead for mercy.
Wow, that's bold.
The idea is it might catch them off guard.
They might lower their guard, give you a chance to act.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but, you gotta be a good actor.
Yeah, I could see that backfiring.
The source even says you might want to, practice this kind of reaction.
Interesting. So it's like a calculated risk.
It is. Another tactic it mentions is to act completely crazy.
Like what? Start yelling and screaming?
Yeah. Waving your arms around like you're having a breakdown.
I could see that working.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to deal with crazy.
Right. Now, here's a huge warning. Never, ever underestimate your opponent.
That's like rule number one in any confrontation.
The source calls it the primary mistake that leads to defeat.
You can't afford to be overconfident or dismissive.
Absolutely. Okay, ready for the fun part?
Let's hear it.
Improvised weapons. Turning everyday objects into tools for self-defense.
This is the part I was looking forward to.
The source starts by saying, use all available tools. Pretty broad, right?
Yeah, it basically means anything can be a weapon.
Then it gets into specifics. It lists a bunch of examples, like your keys, a lighter, yep, stones you might find on the ground, even just a handful of dirt or sand.
Wow, I never thought of that.
It also mentions things like a metal comb, a piece of broken glass.
A can of beer, a cigarette lighter.
Yeah, anything you can use to create some distance, cause a distraction, inflict pain.
Give you a chance to get away.
Exactly. Throwing objects is a big one, too.
Even just your wallet, right?
Yep. Or that handful of sand. Disorient them, create some space.
Distance is key, especially if there's more than one attacker.
Absolutely. Now let's talk sticks and batons.
Okay, now we're getting into classic weapon territory.
The source points out how easy it is to find a stick. A tree branch, a shovel handle, a broom handle.
Even a mop.
It says, in China, the stick has a long history as a weapon.
Makes sense. It's simple but effective.
And it talks about different ways to use a stick depending on its length, like a longer stick, a pole, you'd use that with 2 hands, more open space.
A shorter cane is more maneuverable.
Right, and it emphasizes downward chops to the hands, upward strikes to the legs.
Pushing blows to the body and head.
Don't go for those big overhead swings.
Yeah, those leave you wide open.
It even mentions that a sharp blow to the elbow can disable someone.
Those joints are vulnerable.
Then it talks about batons, which are basically short sticks, maybe a foot or so long.
A lot of experienced fighters prefer those, right?
It says so. Harder to grab, better in tight spaces, easier to conceal too.
You could even carry one around and people might not notice.
And it suggests you could make a wooden baton even more effective by driving nails into one end.
Ouch, a makeshift mace.
And guess what? Even an umbrella can be a type of baton.
Huh, never thought of that.
Okay, next up, palm sticks. These are short little sticks you hold in your fist.
Like, so the ends stick out.
Yep, you can sharpen the ends or leave them blunt.
And you can use them for punching.
It says you can. Holding it in the middle increases the force.
Interesting.
It also mentions using them for cutting, slashing, pushing, even scratching.
Again, those vulnerable targets, joints, abdomen, head, neck, ribs.
Right, and if you don't have a palm stick, a pen, a nail, a metal tube, a fork could work.
It's all about adapting.
But it does warn against practicing full force with a partner.
Yeah, you could really hurt someone.
It stresses that technique is more important than brute strength.
Makes sense.
All right, next, brass knuckles.
Oh, now we're talking serious force.
It describes how they can amplify the power of your punches. Some even have points or edges for piercing and cutting.
Dangerous stuff.
It also gives a big warning about carrying them. It's illegal in a lot of places.
Rightly so.
But it does say if you had to, you could make your own out of wood, even add little spikes or something.
Wow, a DIY weapon.
It advises aiming for the head or hands with those.
I can see why.
Okay, ready for this one. Slingshots.
Slingshots, like the things we played with as kids.
Apparently they can be pretty serious weapons.
Really?
It says a steel ball fired from a slingshot can break a bone at over 60 feet.
That's impressive.
And they can be accurate, too. It suggests aiming for the forehead, temple, eyes.
Ouch.
Plus, they're compact, easy to carry. You can use steel balls or even just pebbles for ammo.
Wow, I never knew slingshots were so versatile.
Next up, bicycle chains.
Bicycle chains, how do you use those?
You can whip them, stretched out, or fold them in half for more direct impact.
Interesting.
You could even wrap one end with tape for a handle. It says a few good blows to the head, body, arms could neutralize someone.
I bet.
And you might even be able to use it to disarm someone.
Like a whip.
Kinda. And this leads into the idea of a makeshift flail.
A flail. Like from medieval times.
It's basically a sock or a small bag filled with something heavy.
Like sand, rocks.
Yeah, sand, earth, stones, anything to give it weight and momentum. Wet soil is supposed to add even more power.
Wow, that could do some serious damage.
It says these can cause internal injuries, even a concussion from a blow to the head.
And they don't leave obvious marks, which is, I guess, another advantage, though a bit unsettling.
It also mentions that you can easily get rid of it by just emptying the contents.
I see the appeal.
Okay, next, scourges, also known as whips.
I've always been a little fascinated by whips.
They're surprisingly easy to make, apparently.
Really? What do you use?
You could use a rod with rubber bands and a weight at the end, or even just a stick and a rope with a heavy nut tied to it.
I see.
And then you whip it at vulnerable areas.
Mm-hmm.
Neck, head, triceps, wrist, elbow.
Those lashing strikes can be brutal.
It even suggests using a car antenna.
Oh yeah, those are pretty sturdy.
Plus, it's compact, and those whips are hard to block.
And they can really tear up your skin, even your fingers.
All right, believe it or not, even a belt can be useful.
A belt? Seriously?
Especially a leather one with a heavy buckle.
Okay, I can see that.
You can use it for striking, blocking, even disarming.
Folding it in half makes it harder to grab, too.
And looping it around your hand gives you a better grip. It emphasizes practicing with it.
Makes sense. You'd want to be able to use it quickly if you needed to.
Okay, now the obvious one, knives.
I mean, we all know knives are dangerous.
This source talks about the effective range for throwing them.
There's a technique to that.
And different types of throwing knives versus regular knives.
Right, they're not all created equal.
It also talks about using a regular knife for quick thrusts.
Don't go for those big swings.
Yeah, those are easy to block. It suggests using your other hand to distract while you attack the stomach or groin.
Smart.
And it highlights the most vulnerable spots, arteries, and veins close to the surface.
Like the wrist, elbow, armpit, behind the knee.
Exactly. Now get this. Nails.
Nails, like from a toolbox.
Apparently. It recommends using longer ones, 6 to 8 inches.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Wrap the head end for grip and weight. Throwing technique is similar to a knife.
Aim for the neck or chest.
It emphasizes accuracy over brute force.
Makes sense, you're not trying to hammer it in.
Next, darts.
Like playing darts.
You can actually make improvised ones.
Really?
A nail stuck in clay with a feather, or even a pin in an eraser.
Huh. I never would have thought of that.
It says these can be thrown pretty accurately up to about 25 feet.
Not bad.
And they can cause a decent injury without needing a lot of strength.
Interesting.
Then there's a whole section on just anything you can throw. Glass, bottles, boxes, plates, even utensils.
The goal being to create distance and disrupt.
Exactly. It specifically mentions axes. Smaller ones with long handles are best for throwing.
Like a tomahawk.
Broken glass can be thrown or used for cutting, thrusting. Wrap the part you're holding to protect your hand.
Alright.
Bottles can be a club, and once broken, the jagged edge, what they call the rose, can be used like a knife.
Ouch.
It mentions aiming for the eyes, neck, abdomen, groin, major blood vessels.
Those are all sensitive areas.
Razors and even sharpened coins are mentioned for cutting attacks. Easy to hide, might not be considered weapons legally.
I see the appeal.
And finally, scissors.
Only for stabbing, though, right?
When they're open, yeah. It suggests sharpening the tips and aiming for the stomach, neck, or arteries.
Got it.
It also mentions where to keep a weapon handy. Pockets strapped to your forearm.
Quick access is key.
But don't do the obvious, like sticking it in the back of your belt.
That's easy to spot.
All right, now let's shift gears to the unspoken rules of a street fight. Rule number 1. Inflict maximum damage, minimize injury to yourself, use any tools you have.
No holding back in a street fight.
Rule number 2, target those vulnerable points we talked about. Incapacitate them quickly.
Efficiency is key.
And rule number 3, forget about martial arts rules. Chivalry, don't hesitate, don't feel sorry for your attacker.
We won't hesitate to hurt you.
Okay, let's talk about mental preparedness. This is huge.
Being in the right mindset is crucial.
The source stresses staying focused, not showing fear. Even if they have weapons, don't panic.
Easier said than done when adrenaline's pumping.
It is. But it advises acting boldly, decisively. And if you have to, strike first.
Overcoming that hesitation can be tough.
It says courage and determination are more important than physical strength.
I believe that.
It talks about psychological adjustment before a fight.
What's that?
It's an internal process, basically getting your mind ready to act.
To do what needs to be done.
It emphasizes being prepared to act desperately, brutally if necessary. No taking prisoners.
It's about survival.
No pity for the enemy. Decisiveness leads to victory.
And it says staying calm, even looking impassive, can confuse your opponent.
It might even make them scared of you.
Interesting.
It also emphasizes acknowledging your right to defend yourself.
That mental shift is important.
And it says those first few moments of a confrontation are critical. If there are multiple attackers, your priority is escape.
Get out of there if you can.
And if you get hit, don't show pain if you can help it.
Don't let them see you're hurt.
It also talks about sizing up your opponent psychologically.
to figure out how to respond.
Project Calmness, show you're ready to fight, or even pretend to comply to create an opportunity to escape.
Like playing possum.
It tells a story of a 59-year-old Chinese woman who fought off robbers. The point is, how you act at the beginning can determine the outcome.
Fascinating.
It also mentions that aggression in an attacker can sometimes be a sign of weakness.
Like they're overcompensating.
But aggression often increases in groups.
Mob mentality.
And if they're drunk or high, the right words might de-escalate things.
Sometimes talking is the best weapon.
Okay, now onto some basic self-defense stances. First, the left-handed combat stance.
This is about positioning, right?
Yeah. Feet shoulder width apart, left foot forward, weight on the front leg.
Hands up, protecting your face.
Abs tensed for stability. Then there's the right combat rack, basically the mirror image.
Good for lefties.
Right. But righties might need to practice it more. It mentions some common mistakes people make with this stance.
Like not bending their knees enough, being off balance.
Yeah, and their legs too far apart, torso tilted wrong, elbows too wide, head not down.
Got it.
Then there's the free or kickboxer rack. You're constantly shifting between left and right. Feet parallel, turned out at a 45-degree angle.
Weight evenly distributed, slight lean forward.
Hands up, guarding the chin. This stance is supposed to be very versatile.
Good for both hands and feet.
And finally, a stance for protecting yourself from dogs. Bend your knees, hold your forearms vertically to cover your face and body.
Turn sideways to the dog, chin down to protect the throat.
Now on to striking techniques. It emphasizes using your whole body, not just your arm or leg.
Generate power from your core.
It even mentions finger pricks to the eyes, that soft spot below the collarbone, the genitals, even the eardrums.
Those can be surprisingly effective.
It talks about whipping blows versus ram attacks.
One is for shock, the other for serious damage.
And in close combat, elbows, knees, your head can all be weapons.
Your whole body is a weapon.
It also stresses using the right technique to avoid hurting yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to break your own hand punching wrong.
Palm strikes are a big one. You can strike with the base, the edge, even the back of your palm.
Aim for the nose, jaw, ears, groin, solar plexus, eyes, armpit, throat.
People are less afraid of hurting their palm than their fist.
Makes sense.
Open hand punches are covered too. Slashing, pushing, forceful hits.
For beginners, it recommends pressing your fingers in for a more solid hand.
And striking with the part of the palm closer to the wrist.
Interesting.
Elbow strikes are supposed to be really powerful, can knock someone down, even a bigger person.
Especially to the chin, jaw, heart area, solar plexus.
They're hard to defend against. It mentions downward, upward, inward, and backward strikes.
Elbows are a close-range weapon.
Fist punches, it says, might actually be less natural for delivering strong impact without training.
I guess it's not as simple as it seems.
It talks about different fist variations. The hammer fist, the reverse fist, the standard knuckle punch.
The silencer, using the back of your knuckles, the hoof, where your fingers are curled.
You can even hold an object in your fist for more damage.
Like a roll of quarters.
Headbutts are good for very close quarters or if your hands are tied up.
Aim for the face, shoulder, back, arms.
But there are risks. You could hurt yourself, they're not very accurate, you could be open to counterattacks, and you need a strong neck.
Right. It's not for everyone.
Foot strikes are powerful and give you reach. Lower kicks for taller opponents, mid-level for similar height, high kicks with caution.
High kicks can leave you off balance.
It says the start of a kick can be hard to see. Targets include the knee, ankle, groin, sole of the foot, edges of the foot, even the toe or lifted knee.
A lot of options there.
Okay, vulnerable areas. It emphasizes joints, nerve clusters, fragile bones, major blood vessels.
Maximum impact with minimal effort.
Martial arts recognize over 200 pain points, but in a street fight, focus on the bigger targets.
You don't have time for pinpoint accuracy in a brawl.
Let's go through some specifics. The nose.
Yeah.
Pain, shock, bleeding, possible bone or cartilage damage, risk of fragments entering the brain. Eyes. Intense pain, possible temporary or permanent blindness.
You don't want to mess with the eyes.
Temples. Very dangerous. Shock, unconsciousness, concussion, skull fracture, brain hemorrhage.
That could be fatal.
Ears. A cupped palm strike can cause pain, nausea, dizziness, disorientation, ruptured eardrum, even a brain hemorrhage.
And a thumb strike to the ear opening is excruciating.
Base of the nose and upper lip. A hard upward strike can cause bleeding and pain, possible unconsciousness, concussion, even death.
That's a sensitive spot.
Chin. An uppercut, elbow strike or palm strike can jar the cerebellum, causing loss of consciousness, maybe even biting your tongue.
Knockout below.
Side of the neck.
Right.
The jugular vein, carotid artery, vagus nerve are all there. Difficulty breathing, low blood pressure, disorientation, pain, unconsciousness.
That's the kill shot.
Solar plexus. Just below the sternum, a strike there can stop your breathing, cause pain and shock, temporary incapacitation.
When knocked out of you.
Cardiac nerve plexus. Even more vulnerable, a hard strike could stop the heart.
That's terrifying.
Ribs and under the ribs, liver, spleen, potential fractures, internal bleeding. Fists, elbows, palms, knees, feet are all good weapons here.
Aim for those soft spots.
Interclavicular cavity. The trachea is vulnerable there. Coughing, suffocation, tears, bleeding, unconsciousness, stopped breathing.
A strike with an object there is especially dangerous.
Lower abdomen and groin. Unprotected, lots of nerves and blood vessels. Pain, faintness, shock, bleeding, unconsciousness, ruptured bladder, fractured pubic bone.
No protection there.
Perineum, extreme pain, lots of nerves and blood vessels there. You might need a distraction before striking. Grabbing or jerking the genitals is also an option.
Okay, moving on.
Lumbar region and kidneys. Sensitive to strikes, possible kidney rupture, bleeding, even death.
The back is a weak spot.
It briefly covers principles of protection. Evasion, getting out of the way, is always best.
If you can avoid the fight, do it.
Then there's blocking. Soft blocks deflect blows. Hard blocks meet them head on.
Each has its pros and cons.
Soft blocks can be used to transition into a counterattack.
You can use circular hand movements, elbows, shoulders, knees.
That takes more experience, though.
It does.
Okay, specific scenarios. Fights can happen anywhere. You gotta adapt.
That's the key.
On public transport, use the seats, poles, anything around you.
Tight quarters, but there are things you can use.
At night, it's more dangerous, fewer people around.
You might want to use a bag with heavy stuff as a weapon.
Or even just as a shield.
Right.
It even suggests raw eggs or dumbbells as improvised weapons.
Wow, I never thought of those.
The goal is to get away when the door's open.
Makes sense.
Now, fighting dogs. Stray dogs are often more fearful, but can still be dangerous if they're hungry or feel threatened.
Right.
Then there are purebred fighting or service dogs, which might be trained to attack.
Those are a different story.
Untrained dogs attack from the side or back. Trained dogs might go for the throat, groin, or face.
They know where to hit.
You might be able to knock a dog off its feet.
But small dogs are agile. They like to latch on.
Don't show fear or run. Think of it like dealing with a small, angry person.
Interesting way to look at it.
You have the advantage of hands, legs, intelligence.
Use your brain.
Be aware of bites, especially to the neck, face, groin, and joints.
Those are painful.
Don't show your weapon too early.
Keep them guessing.
You can use a jacket or sweater wrapped around your arm for protection.
Makeshift armor.
Even try throwing a weapon from one hand to the other to confuse the dog.
That's clever.
Try not to get knocked down.
Stay on your feet.
Keep a low, stable stance.
Good balance is important.
If you fall, get up fast, don't use your hand.
Don't let them get a hold of you.
You might be able to fake being helpless against an untrained dog.
Play dead, maybe.
If it's growling but keeping its distance, try to back away slowly.
Don't provoke it.
Use anything as a weapon. Your jacket like a bullfighter's cape.
Distract and evade.
Fight like you would against a person. Fists, elbows, knees, not your head.
Smart.
Target the spine, base of the skull, forehead, nose, jaw angle.
Those are weak spots.
Don't grab the tail!
That's just asking for trouble.
If it grabs your back, fall down hard.
Try to crush it.
You can trample it by throwing yourself down and kneeling on its neck.
Oof, that's brutal.
If it bites your arm, try to shove something else in its mouth to block its breathing.
And then go for the neck.
Strike it or try to strangle it. If your hand's in its mouth, push it further in to block its breathing.
That's risky, but it might be your only option.
Then try to grab its tongue and pull.
Ouch.
If you can't strangle it, try to cripple it by striking its legs.
Create an opportunity to escape.
Don't go back to a wounded dog.
They'll be even more aggressive.
And groups of dogs are much more dangerous.
You might need something stronger than just your fists.
A long stick, pepper spray, even a hairspray torch.
Those are last resorts.
Now let's talk about being taken hostage.
Okay, this is a whole different level of scary.
It can happen anywhere. Robbery, terrorism, someone who's mentally unstable.
You never know who you might encounter.
Protect your loved ones if you can.
That's your first priority.
This source suggests you might have to fight to the end.
It's about survival.
Hostage takers have different goals than street fighters. They might want to incapacitate or kill you.
It's a much more dangerous situation,
The best defense might be to attack if you can.
but you need to be smart about it.
Cunning, intelligence, endurance are all important.
You have to outsmart them.
Professional hostage takers often target the most difficult hostages first.
The ones who are fighting back or causing trouble.
So it suggests initially acting scared and helpless.
But control your real fear.
Victims who seem resigned are often less guarded.
It's about playing the role.
And it talks about wounds and bleeding.
That's a grim topic.
There's arterial bleeding, which spurts out, venous bleeding, which flows slower.
And then internal bleeding.
Knife attacks are effective because of the pain, the damage, and the blood loss.
They can be devastating.
The most vulnerable spots are the chest and the neck.
Where the vital organs are.
Even strikes to the stomach can be debilitating.
That can knock the wind out of you.
So, to wrap it up, here are the key takeaways from Street Fight for Life. Avoid confrontation whenever you can.
Always the best option.
If you can't, be aware of how you can use everyday objects for defense.
Think outside the box.
Your mindset is crucial. Be prepared. Be decisive.
Don't hesitate. Host.